Tens of thousands of civilians are now known to have fled their homes. Many have also lost their lives as a result of the shelling, including women and children.
What happened under the Gaddafi regime is happening again today. It takes different forms, but it is more violent. It is more widespread. Even Gaddafi's hangings in public squares are back. Their aim? To intimidate the average citizen.
All right, folks, welcome back. And of course, we just brought you live coverage of Commissioner Goodell. Basically, if you're just joining us, he said he got it wrong on Ray Rice. He will now get it right. They will have a new conduct policy, personal conduct policy in the NFL, hopefully in place by the Super Bowl, and it will affect everybody, including owners and staff and players. And he said that domestic violence, sexual abuse is a big problem, not only in the NFL, but in society. And he hopes that the NFL could help that in some way. He also talked about alcohol and drugs and, as he put it, reckless use of guns, that there will be no tolerance for any of that in the NFL. But it's a work in progress. So we'll talk more about that a little bit later on. Right now, as evidenced by the video clip we just came in with, we're changing topic, and we're joined by the former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee and former Republican Congressman from Michigan, Pete Hoekstra, and Lisa Ruth, Lignet senior analyst. And welcome to both of you. Congressman, you wrote a piece for the Washington Examiner, Arming Moderates, quote unquote, a cautionary tale. Talk about why you think it's a good idea or a bad idea for us to be giving weapons to these, I don't know who they are, Syrian terrorists or moderate terrorists or whatever you want to call them.
Well, we've gone down this road a few times in the last couple of years. Number one, we went through it in Egypt where we said, hey, let's align ourselves with the Muslim Brotherhood. Those are the moderates, which led to a huge mess in Egypt. And then we kind of we doubled down. We said, hey, let's throw Gaddafi overboard, someone that has been a staunch ally, a bad person, but a staunch ally in fighting radical jihadists and fighting and keeping these people, under wraps. So let's align ourselves with the moderates in Libya. And what we see what happened there. The moderates really weren't that moderate. They overthrew Gaddafi. Libya today is a playground for radical jihadists. It's a training ground for sending jihadists into northern Africa, into southern Europe. And a lot of the jihadists that fought to overthrow Gaddafi are now part of ISIL. They have weapons and equipment and training that they received in Libya. And now we're fighting the moderates, those moderates in Libya, in Syria and Iraq. We did this once. We've done it twice. Let's be really, really careful about trying this a third time.
Lisa, it seems like such common sense. I just can't figure out why the House and the Senate voted to approve the president's plan here. Do you agree with the congressman?
I absolutely agree with the congressman. And I think it's, we're operating with such blinders. And I keep reading people are saying, well, it's only till December 11th. Like, that makes it any better. The situation of going in and arming these moderates, it doesn't make sense. It didn't make sense to us 6 months ago or a year ago, which is why we didn't do it. Now we're trying to arm them. I think we're asking for such a complete disastrous policy. As you said, Steve, we all know it. Everybody in the world knows it. I don't understand why the government doesn't know it.
Yeah, Congressman, it's almost as if one wanted to be, kind of a devil's advocate here, it's almost as if, the president, it's not only not learning from your past mistakes, it's almost as if you could say maybe the president didn't consider it a mistake, and now he wants to do it again because it was so successful in his own mind. I'm not implying anything specifically. It's just that that's the only thing that would make sense is that if that somehow this was the goal of the president.
Well, you got to remember, Steve, that in the president's speech last week, he said, as his success examples. He said, look, we were successful in Yemen, we were successful in Somalia. I'm scratching my head and saying, I'm not sure exactly what we've done there that's been so successful, but at least he did not call out Libya as a success. I believe even the president, former Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, they recognized that their policy in Libya was an absolute foreign policy disaster. We're just completing an analysis of that at the investigative project on terrorism. But what we're focusing on there, not only was the policy was disastrous, but they should have been able to predict this beforehand, because the people that we aligned ourselves with in Libya had a very questionable and evil background, the same kind of thing that we're seeing in Syria.
All right, I want both of you, and then Lisa, you can weigh in on this first. I want you to both in a ground war against ISIS. He said Iraq can, but we can't. Does that make any sense, Lisa?
Well, I mean, I think if we need a translator, maybe. But I guess what he's trying to say is that this is far more than a military problem, that really you have to do more than defeat them militarily. You have to change the whole situation in the Middle East, which is one of my problems with arming the moderate supposed, I like your term, moderate terrorists. You know, we can't go in and win a military war here unless we're willing to really change the whole situation in the Middle East, the whole map and the whole way it's laid out. I don't know what Bill Clinton was trying to accomplish with that, except to say perhaps just that. This is not a military answer. It has to be so much broader than this. I agree with him that we probably can't win it through a military war. I think we can probably contain them, but you know, squishing them temporarily or containing them is not the answer.
All right, Congressman, we have about 30 seconds. Go ahead, sir.
Makes absolutely no sense. I thought we were talking about doing a coalition. The Iraqi army cannot defeat ISIS, the Islamic State, whatever we want to call it. They can't defeat them without American help, and I believe that's going to mean boots on the ground eventually. Gradually getting into this war is a huge mistake. Let's be aggressive. Let's get it done, and let's get it over with.
All right, Lisa Ruth, LigNet senior analyst, and Pete Hoekstra, former chair of the House Intelligence Committee and former congressman from the great state of Michigan. I thank you both. We'll speak to you very soon. Have a good weekend.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, and we'll be back with Gimme 5 after the break. But first, ladies and gentlemen, you know, it's always time for a very, very interesting segment that precedes Gimme 5. The Revolutionary War was a long, bloody battle the original 13 colonies fought in order to gain independence from the British, of course. In 1781, British General Charles Cornwallis surrendered to the French and American forces. Effectively, it ended the fighting in the American colonies. So let's take a look back at the surrender of General Cornwallis. And that'll be on this hour's American Moment, which will be followed by my Gimme 5 segment. So sit back and watch.
Exactly 6 years and 6 months after the first shots of the Revolutionary War were fired at Lexington and Concord, General George Washington had spent most of the war evading fixed battle. Years and 6 months after the first shots of the Revolutionary War were fired at Lexington and Concord, Lieutenant General Lord Cornwallis, commander of British forces in Virginia and second in command of all British forces in the American colonies, had moved into a trap, setting up camp in Yorktown. Located on a peninsula and facing the York River, Cornwallis was easily encircled by Continental Army troops on one side and a powerful French fleet on another. On October 6th, Washington's army, now reinforced with 5,500 French troops, were making preparations for their planned assault on the 9th. At the same time, a French fleet, numbering 28 ships of the line, had prevented any chance of a British escape by water. By mid-month, the British were cut off from their supply lines, denying them much-needed food and ammunition. With his forces suffering heavy casualties from Washington's continual artillery bombardment, and knowing his reinforcements were still weeks away, Lord Cornwallis did the unthinkable. He surrendered his forces to what had been called a band of rabble, effectively ending America's war for independence. The date was the 19th of October, 1781. With the signing of the Treaty of Paris in 1783, the war officially came to a close, with America's sovereignty secured and its territories bordered by Canada to the north, Florida to the south, and the Mississippi River to the east. For Newsmax TV, I'm Bill Curtis, and this is an American Moment.